Hi, it's Anthony Wong with 986 today. We're going to install the Smart Auto 4.0 onto a PCM 3.1. Today we are going to use a 2014 Panamera. So first thing we're going to need the tool 9827. Now this is Panamera specific. If you do a Macan or a Cayenne, that would be a different tool. All right, so let's use this tool to remove the vents. When we did the Smart Auto 3.0, yes, we have upgraded 4.0, so this board is slightly different, but the procedure is basically the same. All right, using this tool, we have removed this. Now let me show you how it works. And before that, I'm gonna show you that, okay, there's the plug right here on top. All right, so you basically unplug it from there. Okay, now let me show you how this tool works, because why we have to use a authentic Porsche tool to do this, because if you don't, you will be damaging stuff. So this tool goes in there on the third slot, and it's always the third slot. Right about here. All right, you see that? When you use the tool to turn, this is going to close the clip, open the clip so that you can pull it out. Okay, if you don't have a tool like that, now I know that some people use a screwdriver and stuff like that and push it in. Chances are, if the screwdriver is pushing on the wrong place, and it will break this. And I have seen it broken before, and it's just not good. When it's broken, it's gonna rattle, it's not gonna sit tight anymore. And it's better to invest on a tool, 9827, than to break something like this, which costs a lot more, you know that. All right, and if you need help getting that, let me know. All right, always put in through the third slot and pull it. Now the force of pulling is roughly about 5 pounds this time. The bottom one pulling force is roughly about ½ pound. Top part maybe 4 or 5 pounds, maybe even less than that. If you need to use anywhere more than 5 pounds, something is seriously wrong. You may not be able to catch it properly. Make sure it catches. You should be able to feel the resistance when you turn. All right, same thing here. You unplug this. All right, next thing is you need to remove this. All right, so I know I said I get a pair of pliers, but actually I chose this one. Okay, let me adjust the width of it. Okay, this is good. All you need is just go into the bottom part of it and just let me feel it. I just need to get to the top. Okay, I got it. All right, so I use an adjustable wrench. Basically turn this and the whole thing come out like this. All right, and this is done. We need to cover this up. All right, so in the next step, we're going to use a T27 to remove the PCM. We have to use a cloth to cover up the fragile surfaces, because if you scratch it, then it costs a lot of money to replace. Okay, keep it right here. Put this in the back. All right, so once we remove that, we need another tool. Remove, we need some pry tools. Okay, there's two of my favorite ones to use for this part. I'm going to readjust my towel, slide this out. Okay, you saw that I just lifted up a little bit from the back there. That's the reason. I'm going to show you. Because right here, there's a plastic tap right here. This needs to clear the bottom. And you see the shape of it, it's not easy to clear. So once I lift it up a little bit, this will clear. All right, now if you come over to this side and look at the plugs, there are some antenna plugs, and that's when I use this too. So you push down the button to let it release, but it's not a good angle, so you use the pry tool to help a little bit. Now don't pry alone because you will break things. Always press the button and pry at the same time. And it should not be pried with a lot of force. It's very little bit of force is enough. Make sure that the bottom is good. Okay, that's good. Alright, and then the plug, because it can lift it up and flip. Okay, this one has a Bose because it's got fiber optic in there. It's not easy, but just take your time. Just take your time to do it. The last one, I like to use this one. The black one, I use this one. There's more leverage here. Loose. All right, there you have it. So while we have this out, I want to show you all the taps here. Okay, this black one is the only one that is odd. The release is on the side like this here. This one is right here, and this one basically when it's in is like this. You pull it up and then pull it to the back, and the whole thing will be able to come out. These three are just antenna plugs. Same thing. The top, push down the top, and then you can pull it out. Push down the top. And when I use the pry tool, I pry like right around here, and use a little force. Make sure it come out straight. If it's coming out at an angle, you need to make sure you adjust it so that it comes out straight, not like crooked at an angle, because just like screws, you break it, which is not good. All right, we'll leave these things here, and let's go inside and start taking this apart. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about how to install a 9XX Smart Auto CarPlay Android Auto Solution 4.0 into a PCM 3.1. While we're doing that, we might as well clone a hard drive. One thing I need to mention is that cloning a hard drive will not make your PCM bulletproof, because that is only one component that can fail. Doesn't mean that it's the only thing that can fail. So if you clone the hard drive and then something else on the board fails, you still have to get a board replaced or repaired. All right, so with that said, we don't waste any more time. So the tool we use is just like last time, just like the rest of the entire thing. All the screws use either T8 or T9 Torx bit right here. And to remove the hard drive, these are the only two screws that we need to remove, just like here. Now, keep in mind that this will void the warranty. So if your car is still under warranty, make sure that you don't do that. This will void the warranty of the PCM, because we are actually touching internal components of it. But just like anything else, whatever you touch, warranty will not be able to cover. It's pretty typical for all kinds of auto upgrade. All right, so this is how you remove the hard drive. And then when you get the hard drive out, don't deal with the ribbon cables, just pull directly like this. Now this particular drive here, this particular PCM is a PCM 3.1 from a 2014 model. So obviously this is going to be a jukebox feature. So with that said, this has to be a SATA connection. You just look at this, this is a SATA drive. So in order to clone, we have to find another SATA drive to clone. To clone, we're gonna take this out of the case. Use a bit that's the right size. Never use anything that's smaller or bigger, okay? And when you turn the screws, make sure that you don't hold on to the drive, like you don't crush the drive. You just hold on to where the screw is. If you crush the middle of it, the drive will be crushed and all the data will be gone. Those of us who does IT for a living, I'm sure you know this already, but so I just want to mention it again for those who don't do IT for a living. There you go. So we have the hard drive out of there. Now to clone the hard drive, obviously we need two drives. So today we're going to have another drive. Now the size of the drive that we need to choose has to be something bigger than the original size. Look at this one. It says 100 gigabit. So you have to find something 100 gigabit at the bare minimum. And the smallest we can find is only 120 gigs. So this is good enough. So we have 120 gig. Anything bigger than 100 gigs is going to be wasted, because there's no way to repartition any drive, any partitions that is bigger than that without using an actual operating system. And today we're not using one. All right, so the tool I'm using today is a Unitech cloning hard drive system hardware. So the way it works is it goes from clone from A to B. So we put the source. Okay, make sure you do this right. If you clone an empty drive onto a good drive, you basically lose all your data. So today we're using a Unitech dual drive cloning hardware. So we're gonna put the original drive in A and the destination in B. And make sure you know what brand it is, okay? It's Toshiba, that one is inland, so when you go to the software, it's going to be able to identify that. Make sure you clone from the drive that has data onto the drive that is empty. You do it the other direction, that is not going to be good. Okay, you plug the drive in. Same thing here, you plug the drive in. All right, the drives are in, and both of them detect the drive, A and B, solid lights. So that's a good thing. Now let's move to the computer. The software we're going to use today is CloneSailor. And I don't have a personal preference, but I think this is one of the more stable cloning software that everybody uses. So you boot from a USB drive. You boot from a USB drive, as you can see here, and it's an exclusive operating system that does nothing but cloning. So that increases the stability of the whole operation. So you start CloneSailor, and you use a device to device. All right, and then instead of the beginner mode, you use the expert mode. And what we do is partition to local partition. It's reading all the possible partitions right now. Now, as you can see, there are only 4 partitions in this drive. These are 4 physical partitions. They are logical partitions inside. Logical partitions are created inside of physical partition. And again, this is IT stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. And normally for this drive, there should be about 6 partitions in there. And so the first 3 are physical. The 4th one is the one that is divided into 5 and 6. And this is why on the screen you can see 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, because 4 is actually the holder for 5 and 6. And this is the case only for SATA drives, for the new one that has the jukebox. For older models, I think 2011 to 2010 to 2013, where you don't have a jukebox, then that will not happen. All right, let's take a look at the sizes of the partition. Everything looks good. All right, so everything looks good. So let's cancel out here. You have to choose the device. Do you want to do it again? Nope. Enter to continue. Okay, start over. Okay, start CloneSailor. This time we're actually going to do the partition now after checking that everything looks good. We're going to do device to device because we have both of them plugged into there. We're not going to do an image. Again, you will use expert mode. This time we're not going to do partition to local partition. We're actually going to do it so disk to disk will be fine. choose a local disk as a source. So remember I said take a look at what is the drive that we're going from and what is the drive we're going to. Remember the original drive that has the data in there, that's the Toshiba drive. So memorize that. So choose the local disk as source. Source is going to be your original drive, which is 100 gigs. And that's the Toshiba drive. You choose that, hit enter. The target drive, this is where you're writing your data to. And we got remember we said that the smallest we can find is 120 gigs, so this is the one. The top one is a Samsung, whatever it is, it's just the internal hard drive of the computer, so we don't want to use that. So SSD 120 gig, and hit OK, that's the target. Make sure you double check before you hit enter. All right, in here, there are a lot of choices here, and let's see, it chooses reinstall grub, automatically adjust, SF, the clone. Okay, the second one is only if it's NTFS boot. Clone the hidden data, and let's go through this. All right, everything looks good to me. And we're going to hit enter. So we are not going to check or repair source drive system, source file system. We are assuming that the source drive is good. Even if it's not good, repairing it is kind of useless because we don't even have that operating system running anywhere. And we do want to use the partition table from the source disk because it's a different operating system that's for cars. When everything is finished, what do you want to do? I would choose reboot shutdown when everything is finished. I'll let it prompt me. All right, with that said, hit enter to continue. And as you can see on that side, the lights are blinking. And the cloning process has started. You can see the light on the A side is blinking, so it's reading from the A drive right now. As it reads, it's going to continue to read it into memory and then write it to B. While we're waiting for the cloning, at the same time, we can go ahead and start taking the PCM apart. Okay, to prevent damage on this ribbon cable, we're going to remove it. Those friends who are in IT, they probably already know how to remove this ribbon cable, but for those who are not in IT, basically unplug this from the top like that. Notice that there are two notches right here, and then make sure you wiggle it out and don't damage those two tabs. To begin the process, we're going to remove the top two screws. then the 3 buttons, with the 3 screws on the back side of it. Notice that the 2 top screws and the 3 screws on the back are actually the same exact size. So it's okay to mix them up. And then next thing, flip it over here. Get a knife and slice this part here. And flip it over to the bottom. 2 last screws here. Oh, these 2 last screws are shorter than the other screws. I'm going to put them on this side. But you won't be able to mix them up because they're shorter. Now I'm going to compare them to you. One from this deck, one from this deck. Can you tell that the bottom screws are shorter? All right. Now we're going to put all the screws onto my left side since we won't be able to mix them up. Now is a good time to take a picture of this. If anything ever goes wrong to your PCM, this is the part number that you need to search for and purchase a replacement. All right, so in order to open it, we have to be very careful. Poke it here, but remember, when you poke this tab here, your screwdriver cannot go in more than 2 millimeters. Because if you do, something else will come off. Same thing here. And here. Keep applying pressure to pull it open. Now, I'm not a good angle here, so I'm going to use some tools to help me. Usually I don't need the tool, the prying tool. All right, now that they are out of the way, slowly crack it open. Now I'm going to show you here. You won't be able to see it while I do it. But you see those 2 ribbon cables? Basically, it's just like the way we remove the hard drive. We have to unhook those 2 ribbon cables by pulling the tabs on both sides and then unhook the cable from there. So I'm going to try to do it at an angle you can see, but if you can't see, but it'll be just the same process like before. I'm going to grab a flathead screwdriver to help me remove help me unlatch the ribbon cable holder, because they are deep in there. Should have come loose already by now. All right, first one is out. Second one is out. All right. So with that said, the screen is free now. Just need to wiggle it out of there. All right, put this screen aside. We don't need it for now. Just checking on the cloning process. The cloning is doing good over there. All right, we'll just keep it going. All right, to open this drive, first time when you open it, it's going to be a little bit tight. So we'll wiggle it. Okay, this one is not too hard. Actually, this one is not too hard. Usually it's harder than that. All right, you slide it to the back, and I moved too fast. But you see, I try to line this one up. It was here before, this little tab. I move it all the way to here, and then now you can open it like this. Now, when you open it, be very careful. Don't do it fast, because the DVD cable, as you can see, is right there, and you don't want to break it. Okay, in order to work on this thing, we have to remove the DVD for now. So same thing, we have to unplug it. Unplug it for now. Put it on that side over there. Okay. Next thing we do, we unplug these two cables. Now, these two are factory cables. We're not going to use this for our installation because they are not long enough. So now we are almost there for installing the board. Okay. In the kit, it should come with a white packet and also 4 standoffs here. For this part, we're only going to need these. We'll leave this later, okay, for this part. So first, we're gonna go back to the T8 or T9 bit. Now there are 4 screws that we need to remove. Look at this board here. This is your XM radio and high definition FM. This is only existing in North American models of the Panamera and any Porsche cars basically that has PCM 3.1. This board only appears in North America because I guess very few people outside use SIRI XM radio. So first we remove 2 of the screws. Well, we can go ahead and remove all 4. Does not really matter. just want to remove the hard drive. Put that over here for now. All right, now these standoffs are only for North American models. Different continents may have different sizes. It doesn't need to be too tight, just need to be finger tight, that's good enough. There's nothing inside that's going to rattle it enough for it to come loose. The next part, we're going to need a tin cutter and a pair of pliers, and we need to start working on the DVD side of it. Okay, on the DVD side, we need to look at it from here. Okay, this is the mating side of it, and right here we need to cut a little tab. This is to make room for the cable to come out. Now we're not going to remove any material, we're just going to cut a notch there so that the whole process can be reversible if we ever need to remove the all you need to do is just band it back. We don't need to remove any material at all. And this is only made of tin, so it's so soft that you can do it by hand. Okay, make sure that it looks level. The more level it looks, the better it'll fit when we put it back on. All right. This is where the cable is going to come out from. All right, we're done with these. Next step. Going to put the DVD cable back in. Now this is the critical part. We need to sit the cable back in, and we need to wiggle it a little bit. Make sure it feels solid all the way in. No room for it to move around, and then you push the two sides in. Okay, check, double check and triple check. Make sure that it's parallel right here. If you see the blue line there is even, that's a good sign. If not, that's a bad sign. And then you need to stop and redo. All right, so from this packet, pull it out, there should be few ribbon cables and a board, and some of them have the ribbon cable attached, pre-attached already, some of them don't. If not, you just install them yourself. Makes no difference. The way it works is like this, though. I'll show you how to install it. Basically, one side of the cable, it looks like this. That goes to the Porsche side. This side of the cable looks flat, and that goes into our board. And you insert it all the way in. Double check, triple check, make sure it's parallel. And you slowly insert this all the way in to lock it in place. Same thing for the other two. Okay, and we always start from the outside to the inside. You see the difference between the two? This side and this side, the two sides are different. You use the smooth side to insert it onto our board. All right, once you do that, you turn it over. Insert each one of these in there. Now, same thing like I mentioned before, make sure it sits in all the way. Wiggle around, make sure that it's not loose in any way. And one of the things I want to mention while I'm doing this is how important it is to line everything up perfectly. Make sure that it doesn't wiggle around. Okay, the reason why it's very critical is because of this. Now, from the design of this board, now I'm not going to say whether it's a good design or bad design. It's not my design, so we don't really have any control over that. But the positive and negative terminal are designed to be right next to each other on this ribbon cable. If you use a perfect insulation, there should not be any problem for them to be next to each other. However, if the insulation is flawed, like somehow you didn't get it perfectly in there, positive and negative are so close to each other that it can be crossed by having one pin on the ribbon cable that touches both. When that happens, that's like shorting plus and minus. And you will smell some smoke coming out of there. And it may not be the end of the day, and it may not be the end of the world, but it's definitely not good. So that's why I want you to pay extra attention. Putting the cable in, take your time, check and recheck and triple check before you close everything up. All right, with that said, we are done with this part. So put the screws back in. And just like everything else that I do, there's really no room for mistake. Because you make one mistake, the entire insulation will be destroyed. So, but you do with care, nothing is not achievable. All right, one last step before we close it up. We need to get this cable here out of the back. Okay, now notice that there's a yellow zip tie here, and I sometimes use different colors, and sometimes I include the zip tie in there in the packet. Basically, the zip tie is for strain relief. And you'll see how it's used. All right, so this is plugged in, and this one, the zip tie is supposed to be on the inside. If I didn't tighten it enough, you may want to add your own, but it's usually mine should be okay because I personally inspect each one. All right, rotate it back to normal. Now let's make sure the ribbon cable is not twisted. Okay, it should be just like the way it came out. Take your time to do this, don't rush it. Slide in there. Ribbon cable has come out of the slot that we just cut. Everything looks perfect. Double check, triple check. Take your time. We're not after a fast job, we're after perfection. You hear the click on the left side, on the right side, we're good. All right, both clicks are in. Now, next thing, we can go ahead and lock those screws, 3 screws in. Now, remember, we have all the screws down here. The 2 short screws are for the bottom, so we don't use those, and pick out those 3 screws that are long. Put them back on. When we're installing screws, it's very important to make sure it doesn't cross thread. So do it very lightly, not use your whole hand, but actually just 2 fingers. If you cannot turn it, it's too tight. All right, this part is done. Now is the LCD assembly. Now you see why I love long cables. It just makes work so much easier. And I specially ordered these just for us. Costs a little bit more, but guess what? They last forever. It's going to easily outlast the PCM itself. Okay, you need to slide it back in a little bit. Second cable. I was just wiggling it, make sure that it's in all the way and there's no play, no room for it to move around freely to cross the plus and minuses I just mentioned to you about. The quality of the ribbon cable is actually critical to this task. And because of that, we use very high quality cables. I refuse to use anything that's cheaper than that. All right, now is the time to lock it back in. Okay. This side did not get in the hook, if you look, so we have to redo this. Again, because I'm not holding it close to myself, I have to use a pry tool. All right. Check every corner. From every direction, click, and that's it. We can put the screws back in. We start from the bottom. So the bottom side, remember, yes, we need to use the short screws for the bottom. Now be very careful. If there's any resistance and you need to use anything more than 2 fingers, readjust and make sure the holes is lined up here, because if it's not, then you mess up the threads. Tin is very soft, so you don't want to damage the threads. All right, go back to this side. All right, where's our new hard drive? Right here. And go ahead and put that back into our case. Like so. 4 screws. Okay, just get it tight and snug, but not too tight. Anything over 2 to 3 Newton meter is too much. This is a small screw. All right, next step, we're going to put the ribbon cable back onto the PCM first. All right. We install the drive back in. All right, 2 screws and 2 more screws. There's some resistance here, so I release the screw again and reline up the hole and look for 0 resistance. It should be 2 fingers. And anything more than 2 fingers force is just too much. All right, that completes the installation on the board side. Now let's go to the car. Oh, by the way, I want to take a look at this. Notice that one of the fin is actually not lining up with the rest. You see, the top one is maybe just off the hook. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah, it's just off the hook there. All right, that should be easy to fix. Basically, we need something to pry it down. And then get that little edge into the hole, and now it's fixed. You see? Now it's perfect. All right, let's get back to the car. All right, the next part, we're going to install this cable here. Now, it's not plug and play. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because this particular system is a Bose system. So for Burmester, probably something similar, but for Bose, we have a couple of orange cables here. If you look closely, these 2 orange cables are actually fiber, and for those of us who are in IT field, we're very familiar with how fragile they are. Basically, if you bend it this much, it's okay. Anything more than that may break the inside, so we have to be very careful when we deal with this. So the first step, we're going to cut the cable, the tape, the tester tape, and cut it off to release it from the bundle. We don't want it to tie to the bundle anymore, because we need it to be loosened so that we can move the fiber cable to another plug. All right, this much is enough. When you are manipulating with this cutter, be sure don't cut off any electrical cable, because that's major trouble later on. Okay, and the fiber optic, if you mess it up, that's everybody will know how much trouble that is to rerun those cables. All right, to release it, get a small screwdriver here, took it up a little bit. That should be good. And that's how you get it out. All right. So with that unplugged, now you can plug this one into there. Make sure it's perfectly matching. Okay. Now notice that for this particular car, this side is empty, and it's okay. And for different models of the stereo systems, different parts of it is being used for the amplifier and for the sound. So it's for different cars, it's got different pins populated. That's fine. All right, now leave this one in the back there. And then for the fiber optic cable, we insert it. Oh, I forgot to untie this first. Later on, we're going to insert this into the bottom down there. Okay, but for now, we're just going to finish this part first. There's only one way that it will fit, so don't worry about plugging it the wrong way. Basically, it needs to go back to the same slot it belongs. The click confirms that it's a good connection, and that part is done. Next part, we're going to install the microphone. Okay, now a lot of people ask why we're using our own microphone. That's because the circuit inside the Porsche, the microphone circuit, is not part of the same LIN bus circuit that the 10 bus circuit that is basically not in the same circuit that the rest of the stuff are on. So because of that, we're not able to capture the microphone signal directly through the PCM. So because of that, we have to run our own microphone. Yeah, I dropped the cable tie. I'll just use another cable tie. This is the Wi-Fi antenna. Alright, cable tie here. We're not going to need that much of the cable released. But the best location to put the microphone for a Panamera is going to be right here. And
we hide the rest of the cable like right behind it. Okay, is there a blue trim tool here? No, let me go get that. Alright, so we're going to install the microphone. And the best place to put the microphone is right about here. Okay, we're going to use our trim tool to push it into the crack there. Okay, just let the microphone sit here freely. That's good enough. Now some people ask me can we install the microphone, hide it inside the air vent, the air conditioning vent, and obviously the answer is no, because the AC keep blowing air to it. It's just too much blowing air noise that is going to interfere with the driver's commands. Now, one good way to know that it's a good installation is that when you are driving and then you know that your mouth is directly pointing at the microphone, that's a good way for it to pick up what you're saying. All right, we want to keep it on top here. And you need to run this all the way down there, but you don't need a lot in between, so we're going to bundle up. About here, this is a good amount, and over there we need more than that. Okay. Right about that much, that should be enough. Notice I didn't use a zip tie, because zip tie is a one-time deal. You cannot loosen it again and adjust. For something like this, we may have to adjust later on. We use this cable tie. Put this thing back there. Okay, now notice that this is on top, and then later on we're going to route it to the back there and over. So when you insert the vent, it's not going to pinch on this microphone cable. Then we'll lift this up, and this is the vent control. It stays on the left side, and for this microphone cable, it needs to go to the back there, roll it through the back and bottom. I like the bottom side because the bottom side usually has a lot of room there. And this is same for the Cayenne and the Macan. 911 is totally different. 911 and Cayman are different, so I'm just arranging these because these cables are getting in front of the vent on the left side. So make sure that all these cables clear the vent on the left side. Okay, we're routing it over there so we got a clear view of how it routes. Now, I mentioned that the microphone cable needs to go down there. That's because it's plugged into here. This is when we're going to plug it in. All right, it's plugged in, it's solid. All right, we need to put this through to the bottom over there. Now, before we do that, we need to be able to see things. So, next thing, we need to open the panel down there on the passenger side. It's the same panel where you have to replace your cabin air filter. It's the same panel. So, if you haven't removed the cabin air filter before, then it's time to read up on the manual on how to do this. All right, and then we shine a light down there, and using that light as a guide, and you feed this cable through there. Now for Cayenne, you're going to have to fish, because Cayenne is a lot deeper than a Panamera. But for Panamera, you just feed the cable directly through that hole. It's not much of a challenge. Okay, I'm gonna come over to that side. All right, now you can see the cable's in, and it comes out from down here. All right, and that's all there is to it. So basically, I am just putting it temporary right here. Plug everything in. Oh, by the way, the antenna, I kind of hide it underneath here, but you can put it wherever you want. Well, for this one, right now I just still have it here, but at the end I'm gonna hide it here. And for the USB plug, the best place to put it and easiest place is going to be right here. And then you just use a trim tool and stick the cable inside there so that it's invisible, and that'll be good enough. And then for the box, one of the best place to put it is underneath here. This is where the cabin air filter is, but you can put it here, and then the panel that covers it up will go below it. And then notice that there's a air vent right here. So as long as you don't block the air vent, put the box behind over there. That should be a good place to put it. One note is, when you put the radio back in, make sure that the plug, now because you got a plug and a few cables in there, make sure that they don't overlap onto each other, because if they do overlap onto each other, you won't be able to put the PCM back. So you have to rearrange. If it takes 50 times to rearrange so that it will go in smoothly, do that. Don't jam it in, because if it pinches on the wire, it cannot be good. All right, and then it should be able to fit in there like minimal pressure.
All right, that's it. To install it back, everything just reverse, and then you have to turn this little thing back so that it looks flush. And that's it. All right, thanks for watching.